During the Cold War, the United Kingdom stood as a formidable maritime power, maintaining a well-balanced fleet of submarines that included the strategic nuclear deterrent, fast-attack hunter-killer boats, and diesel-powered submarines capable of operating closer to shore. These vessels not only embodied our technological prowess but also our military flexibility, allowing us to act alone or alongside our allies in virtually any region of the world, projecting strength and readiness in both peacetime and conflict. But with the collapse of the Soviet Union, the strategic calculus shifted. A dangerous assumption crept into our national psyche, that the long shadow of global conflict had lifted for good. Our leaders, eager to secure the so-called peace dividend, set about reducing defense spending and reshaping our military posture. In that wave of optimism, the diesel submarine flotilla, which had provided vital littoral and training capabilities, was swept aside with a single political decision. Simultaneously, our nuclear-powered attack submarines, once numbering 13 across the Swiftsure and Trafalgar classes, were systematically reduced. They were replaced, yes, by the far more capable Astute-class boats. But even their sophistication could not make up for their limited quantity, just 7 in total. 7 boats to cover the global interests of a G7 nation, a NATO power, a supposed maritime leader. Support infrastructure suffered similar neglect. Dry docks, training centers, shore-based engineering hubs, and even the very barracks that housed our submariners, these were either closed, reduced, or left to stagnate. The very backbone of our undersea force was left underfunded and stretched, eroding our capacity to keep the few vessels we did have at sea for extended periods. Operational tempo rose while resources shrank. Morale dipped, and readiness suffered. All this occurred as storm clouds began to gather once more. From the early years of the last decade, it became undeniably clear that Russia was reasserting itself. Submariners knew it first, because in the cold depths of the oceans, silence has its own language. We could hear them, see them, feel the uptick in activity. Russian boats prowling the North Atlantic with increased frequency. Testing our boundaries, challenging our resolve. We also saw the rise of China, investing heavily in its naval forces, developing advanced underwater capabilities and expanding its influence from the South China Sea to the Indian Ocean. Yet while global threats multiplied, our response remained timid, hamstrung by short-term politics and a lack of strategic vision. The gap between requirement and reality widened with every passing year. Now, a decade later, the government announces plans for 12 new nuclear-powered submarines. A welcome decision, yes, but one that arrives far too late. The lead time to design, build, test, and deploy such vessels is measured not in months, but in decades. A modern nuclear submarine is among the most complex machines ever built. You don't just decide to build one and have it in the water a year later. The challenge lies not only in the steel and the nuclear reactors but in the people. Submariners are not created overnight. They are forged through experience, discipline, and a deep sense of duty. We've allowed our cadre of experienced submariners to dwindle. Recruitment and retention have become persistent issues. Life beneath the waves is not for everyone, and with degraded shore facilities and limited career prospects, too many have turned away from the call of service. The decision to expand the fleet is a signal, but it must be accompanied by a broader renaissance in naval thinking. We need investment in training facilities, expansion of engineering support, bases, and a full-spectrum strategy that doesn't just plan for future hulls but also ensures the current fleet is maintained, upgraded, and deployed efficiently. Furthermore, there needs to be a cultural shift. The nation must begin to understand that its submarine force is not just a relic of the Cold War, but an essential pillar of modern defense. In an age of hybrid warfare, cyber threats, and gray zone tactics, submarines remain one of the few tools capable of operating undetected, delivering precision, and deterring aggression. Our allies have understood this. The United States continues to expand and modernize its undersea fleet. Australia, through the AUKUS Pact, is stepping into the nuclear submarine game. France has invested heavily in both nuclear deterrent and attack subs. Meanwhile, Britain, once the father of undersea warfare, has been playing catch-up. We must also acknowledge the risks of becoming dependent on others for undersea intelligence and coverage. An independent capability is not just a matter of pride, it is a necessity for sovereignty. Relying too heavily on allies to plug our gaps undermines our ability to act autonomously and dilutes our credibility on the world stage. This is not an issue of nostalgia. It is a recognition that maritime power is not optional for an island nation. From our economy to our security, we depend on the sea. Our cables, our trade routes, our deterrence posture, all hinge on having the ability to operate beneath the surface with strength and stealth. We must also consider the role of these submarines in deterring not only conventional threats but also asymmetric ones. A nuclear-powered submarine, armed with cruise missiles or even unmanned systems, can shape battlefields before a shot is fired. It can monitor, disrupt, and dissuade. But to do so, it must be present. And presence requires numbers. You cannot maintain a continuous presence in multiple strategic areas with a handful of boats. You need critical mass. And critical mass doesn't happen by accident. It's the result of consistent policy, long-term investment, and a national belief in the value of undersea power. It's not just about steel in the water, it's about strategy in the minds of our leaders. Let us not forget, submarines have often been the first line of defense, the unseen shield that protects national interests. They are deterrents, yes, but also instruments of influence, surveillance, and, if needed, strike. To the government I say, it is not enough to announce 12 new boats. You must build the ecosystem that supports them. You must honor the commitment of those who serve within them. And you must move with urgency, not delay. To the people, understand what is at stake. The threats are no longer theoretical. They are active, dynamic, and growing. And to those who still serve, or once served, know this: your sacrifices were not in vain. You held the line when others faltered. You heard the hum of danger long before the surface world took notice. Now it is time for Britain to remember its maritime soul, and to once again lead from beneath the waves.